Hey guys, welcome back to SUP'S Garage. On this video, I'm going to be showing you how to change your spark plugs on your 2017 to your 2023 GSXR 1000. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing we got to remove is this bolt here, and we're going to have the same bolt on the other side. Therefore, we can start taking off the plastics to get better access to get this tank flipped open. All right, and once you got that bolt off, you want to start off by pulling back on the back because there's a grommet that's holding down this back piece here. You're just going to pull out slowly till you hear it pop out. You're just going to push a little bit back and then pull down. And as you can see here, that's where it's held down from the front. All right, so once you removed it from the rear and the front, you're going to have the centerpiece still here. Now you're just going to pull back gently until it pops out. Like so. And as you can see here, there's a grommet that sits in the front, which is held by this piece here, and also the grommet on the very back, which is going to be held onto this piece here. Now, since we're already on the left side, we're going to go ahead and remove this bolt that's holding down the seat. And now we're just going to do the exact same steps on the right side of the bike. Start off by taking off this bolt here. Then you're going to pull slowly from the rear. All right, like so. Then on the front, you're just going to pull down, get it off that tab there. And then same thing on the center. It's got a grommet, so you're going to pull out slowly, just like we did the rear. Like so. And then next, we're going to remove the last bolt that's holding down the seat. And at this point, we could simply just raise up on the seat and pull it off. All right, at this point, all we have to do is go on top of the gas tank and remove these two bolts that are sitting on top. Once we remove those two bolts, it should finally give us access to pivot up on the gas tank. Now, we should be able to get access to those spark plugs without removing the gas tank, but it will be a lot easier if you just get the gas tank out of the way. To be able to show y'all everything on video a lot better, I'm gonna go ahead and remove the gas tank. And if you wanna go ahead and remove the gas tank as well for yourself, I'll show you how to do that as well. Now I'm gonna start off by removing these two tubes on the right side of the tank. You're just gonna simply disconnect these and just remember where each of them go. Go ahead and disconnect the other one. Now we can go ahead and move to the connector that powers up the fuel pump. And all you're gonna do is push down on this tab in the back and pull out. Like so. All right, next we're gonna move on to the left side of the bike and removing the fuel line. Now these new fuel lines are a lot easier than the old one that you had to disconnect. It's gonna have a tab on each side. I use 2 fingers to just pull down on both sides at the same time. And you'll see that it releases. Now once I got the tab fully down, all I like to do at this point is push in a little bit and then pull all the way out. Now, before you pull this out, just keep in mind, if you had this bike running not too long ago, that you're gonna have a little bit of gas pressure coming out. So just be careful with your eyes. Put your tank all the way back down to be able to remove the last bolt on the rear of the tank. All right, so you're gonna use a 10mm wrench on the left side of the tank and a 10mm socket on the right side. And the reason why you gotta use them at the same time is because as soon as you start turning on the right side, the nut's most likely gonna turn on the left side, not allowing you to loosen the bolt from the nut itself. So just use the wrench on the left side to hold the nut while you remove the bolt on the right side. And just to give you a better idea of what I mean by that bolt, all you're doing is making sure that this nut does not turn while you're loosening the bolt at the same time. And at this point, we should be able to get this tank completely off the bike. All right, have a lot better access to everything we got to remove. We're going to start off by removing the same kind of tab that we removed earlier from the fuel pump, and you're just going to pull back with your fingers like so until the green piece is fully upwards. Once we do that, remember, we're going to push in a little bit and then push back. And it should come right off. Disconnect all 4 injectors, and you're just going to push in on these gray tabs, push in and pull out. Like so. And of course, chances are, if you've never done this before, you're gonna have to cut these zip ties that are holding down the harness onto the fuel rail. just take note which side was which side. In my case, I'm gonna be taking a note of this blue wire protector to remind me that this is gonna be the left side and the black will be the right. Just simply lay down the harness out of the way. All right, next we're gonna take off all the screws that are holding down the airbox, and you're gonna have a total of 5 screws on each side. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 inside this hole here. And you're gonna have the exact same amount on the other side. And just make sure you use the right size screwdriver because these screws tend to strip really easy. Now, once you get all 10 of those screws out of the way, I forgot to mention when we were messing with the fuel line that we're gonna have to remove the 10 millimeters that are holding down the fuel line. The reason being is that same bolt is holding down the bottom piece to the top piece. So just make sure after removing all those screws, do not pull up on these until you remove these two 10 millimeter bolts. And then you should easily be able to pull up on the top cover and get it out the way. All right, what I'm gonna go ahead and do next is go ahead and disconnect the map sensor that's attached to the bottom of the airbox. And you're just gonna pull slowly to pull the rubber piece off of that little mount there. Now, once you've done that, we're gonna have to remove a total of 6 bolts that are holding down the bottom of the airbox. There's gonna be 1 here, 2, 3, and the same for the other side. 1 there, 1 in the center, and 1 in the back. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those out of the way. Now I've already loosened all 3 of them on this side, so I'm just gonna pull this off, put it aside for now. Now do the same thing for the other side. All right, now we're gonna move to the front of the airbox to remove the last 10 millimeter bolt that's holding it down. Before pulling off on the bottom of the airbox, you're gonna have to disconnect this hose here, and this sensor right here. So just make sure you pull off on it gently, like so. Go ahead and disconnect your sensor, and you're just gonna be pushing on the gray clip to be able to release it. And then finally, we got this last hose here that we're gonna have to squeeze that clamp to be able to get out of the way. I like to squeeze the clamp and just drop it on the bottom of the hose. Therefore, I can just pull down on this hose here. And there you have it. It's completely removed. And at this point, we could finally remove the bottom of the airbox out of the way. All right, at this point, we have full access to all 4 of the spark plugs. All we have to do now is disconnect them from the coils on each one. I'm gonna start on the right side. All you gotta do is push down on the tab and pull out, like so, and do the exact same thing for the rest of them. Now all we have to do is remove the 4 coils out of the way to finally be able to get those spark plugs out. What I like to do is just twist these as I pull up and they'll come out. And you're gonna do the exact same thing for the rest of them. And be sure you put these coils in the same order you remove them. All right, to get those spark plugs removed, I'm gonna use a spark plug socket, a small extension, and another extension that's about half of this size extension, just to make it a lot easier for me to be able to use my ratchet to get those spark plugs out. So as you see, I have just enough space to be able to get that spark plug loosened up. Once I got it loose, I like to just turn it by hand. Then I'm gonna disattach the small extension to be able to get enough room to get the whole tool out with the spark plug. And there we have our first spark plug removed. It's gonna be the exact same method for the 2 ones on the corners. The center ones are a lot easier because there's nothing in the way on top. All right, and I'm just gonna be putting back the same NGKs that were in the bike for manufacture. And I'll be putting down the part number right here in the bottom corner, as well as a description if you're wanting to put the exact same part number back in your bike. Also, I do wanna mention when putting these back into the head, do not just drop the spark plug in. You don't wanna take the chance of the tip of the spark plug bending any kind of way, and it's gonna cause performance problems when you're riding. So just do your best to hold it down with one finger as far as you can down, and then you can let it go. Also, another thing I forgot to mention is be sure that your spark plugs are pre-gapped. NGK usually has them pre-gapped or manufactured, but it doesn't hurt to double check to make sure that all the gaps on all 4 spark plugs are correct. All right, I got all 4 spark plugs in, but now I just have to retighten them, and I'm gonna be starting from left to right. What I like to do is tighten it all the way by hand first. Once it's all the way tight by hand, then simply connect my ratchet and just turn a 1/2 quarter more. Because the last thing you want to do is over tighten that spark plug and you're going to strip out the head, and then you're going to run to a bigger and more expensive job just for over tightening. So just be careful when tightening these spark plugs back. All right, at this point, we've got our new spark plugs in. Now we just have to put everything back where it was. I'm gonna start off with putting back our coils. Now when putting these in, just make sure you push down firmly. You'll feel a click or two. Try to make it go all the way down as much as possible. Therefore, it's seating on the boot correctly, and you don't take the risk of anything getting in there. All right, now we're just gonna reconnect our connections that go to the coils. All right, now we can go ahead and put the bottom of our air box back in. All right, now just remember to reconnect this hose in the front, the sensor right behind it, and the last hose on the very back. I'm gonna slide the hose in first. And then I can go ahead and pinch the clip and raise it all the way to the top, like so. Then go ahead and reconnect your connector. And then lastly, go ahead and put this hose that goes in the very back. Go ahead and put the 10mm you removed earlier from the top of the air box. Go ahead and put these pieces back as well. Do the same thing for the other side. Don't forget to put the sensor back on this bracket here. All right, now we can go ahead and put the top of our air box back on. I'm gonna start off by putting back these 2 10mm bolts that's holding down the fuel rail. Now we can go ahead and start putting all the screws, including the ones that go in the center. And I do want to mention, when putting these screws back on, they don't have to be extremely tight, because again, it is screwing onto plastic and you will strip the plastic. All right, now we can go ahead and start connecting our fuel injectors, and just remember which side goes where. Again, in my case, the blue side is going to go on the left. All right, and I'm going to be putting 1 zip tie on each side just to make sure that these don't move around. Now just reconnect your fuel line. You're going to push all the way in, and you're going to feel a small snap, and then push down on that green tab. And that's all it takes for it to lock in place. All right, now we're just gonna put our fuel tank back on. Just be careful not to drop it. Just let it sit. Because remember, the first thing we gotta do is put that bolt back on the rear. We're gonna slide in the bolt. Just make sure you have the washer on it. And you might have to wiggle the tank a little bit just to be sure that it goes in through the slot. Like so. All right, remember to use your 10mm to hold down the nut on the left side. And therefore you can tighten it on the right side. All right, just like earlier, have the tank pivoting up, because we're still gonna have to reconnect everything on the bottom side of the tank. All right, and I'm gonna be starting off with the 2 hoses that we disconnect earlier. And again, just make sure you reconnect them where they're supposed to go. And if you have a third one like you see here, don't worry about it. That one doesn't connect to anything. Okay, next we can go ahead and reconnect our fuel pump connector. All right, now we can go ahead and reconnect our fuel line. We're gonna do it the exact same way we did the fuel line on the injectors. You're just gonna push it all the way in and you're gonna hear a small snap. And then you could push down on that green tab to lock it in place. All right, at this point, we can go ahead and drop our tank down and then go ahead and tighten down the 2 bolts that hold the top of the gas tank. All right, next we're gonna be putting back the seat. And on the bottom of your seat, you're gonna have 2 hooks that are gonna be inserted right here on the bike. Once you got it in, it should sit perfectly to be able to put the bolt that holds down the seat to the bike. We're gonna go ahead and tighten the seat down on the left side. And since we're already on the left side, we're gonna go ahead and put the side piece back on. Starting from the front, just make sure that clip is clipped from the bottom of the gas tank. Before you push down to connect it to the grommets, make sure that this lip is underneath the seat and then just tap on it to push back into those grommets. Like so. And then go ahead and put the bolt that holds down the plastic to the gas tank. All right, now on the right side, we're gonna go ahead and tighten the last bolt that holds down the seat. And just like the other side, we're gonna put the side piece back on. Starting from the front, make sure it's underneath the gas tank and make sure the centerpiece, the lip is underneath the seat, and then just tap in the back to get those grommets back in place. And then lastly, our last bolt to connect the side piece back onto the gas tank. All right guys, and that's all there to it. It's not too hard of a job. You could definitely do it yourself. Just be a little patient through the whole process. But like always guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video and I really hope this helps a lot of people out there that is interested in doing this on their own. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already to help grow this channel, and hit that like button for me if you enjoy watching videos like this. But like always, don't forget, God loves every single one of you guys. God bless you guys, and we'll see y'all on the next video.